The Joe Rogan Experience.
I saw that conversation with that dude about the Sphinx. I think he said it was like 9,000 BC or something.
Well, this is Graham Hancock and or Robert Schoch. Robert Schoch, who is a geologist at Boston University, has actually taken the time to examine the erosion around the outside of the Sphinx. See, the Sphinx itself has been worked on a lot. There's been a lot of rehabilitation of the paws. They've sort of rebuilt it, which is kind of a shame. But it's made out of a sort of a soft stone, and it's eroding and falling apart. And when they found the Sphinx, like when Napoleon found the Sphinx, it was buried. It was buried under sand. So this is a thing that had been buried and re-exposed like many times, they think, throughout history. And what Robert Schoch had found in discovering the temple where the Sphinx was carved and the area that surrounds the Sphinx was these deep fissures in the walls that were indicative of thousands of years of rainfall. The problem with that is the last time there was rainfall in the Nile Valley was 9,000 BC.
Right.
So they're dealing with and you have to go back thousands of, or 9,000 years ago, it might be 7,000 BC, but you have to deal with thousands of years of rainfall prior to that to create this. So that means that this was something that was clearly carved by man, has thousands of years of rainfall that eroded it, and you're dealing with a time period where the last time they had this rainfall in this area was thousands of years before they think people were even capable of building things like this.
Maybe it was the lizard people.
You going David Icke on me, bro?
You know that theory about the super intelligent dinosaurs that fled underground?
Oh, God. No. But it's funny. Like, there's so many wacky theories. It's funny what I'll roll my eyes at.
Isn't it even slightly, even just tiny bit more likely that humans came from a different planet and after they destroyed it and then reseeded and we lost our way of life?
Yeah, it's possible. Look, if we're going to go to Mars, like, what is the fucking origin tale going to look like 100,000 years from now once we go to Mars?
Let's take the climate change, global warming stuff to its logical conclusion of rising tides and a runaway greenhouse effect.
Right.
So we build one ship. Elon Musk builds one ship with a very small crew of, how many people are going to be on that? Do you know, on his Mars expedition?
Gotta have some chicks, though.
Yeah, I think I read
repopulate the Earth, right? So it's got to be men and women, and the people are going to have to be, heterosexuality is going to be favored because you really can't have gay people that aren't going to breed. You have two lesbians, like, we need to have it only populated by lesbians. Well,
there's no more.
Do you guys have buckets of sperm and a turkey baster? Because how else are you going to make people when you're over there?
I was reading that they're going to go with people who are already coupled. And they're going to, with like 10 couples or whatever. I don't know about Elon Musk specifically, but that was like
wife swapping going on in space.
They did talk about that too. I was reading like the most optimal theory for colonizing Mars would be like
polyamorous people.
Something like 10 people already coupled. Not that they're polyamorous, but they expect there's going to be commingling eventually.
Expect commingling. Oh, so it's Burning Man in space.
But check it out. Let's say we sent a Mars expedition. 10 families. We've got, 2 of each. They start having kids. We send cargo there. They start building. And then Earth wipes itself out. Runaway greenhouse. We can't get to control things. Nuclear war, whatever.
Right.
The planet becomes a desolate wasteland. There's no more communication to those who are on Mars. So the last remaining, 100 or so people who are now on Mars, the adults who remember Earth, write down a book. Here's everything that happened. Here's what you should and shouldn't do. Here's how we lived. And they give it to their kids. Now, their kids never experienced Earth. They know nothing about it. In fact, those kids only have a fleeting image of the technology that they once had. Now, go 2 more generations down. The old tech where we used to colonize Mars is now decaying and falling apart. They have no idea how to fix it. The original colonists are dead. Go down 3 more generations. Now you've got a few thousand humans start moving off looking for resources. And no one has any idea Earth even was a real thing other than the stories they heard about the military leader in the orbital space station who long since died. So now they have this book they don't fully understand. Their language is now changing as they separate from each other and find different areas of the planet. Now English or whatever language they were speaking becomes 10 different languages. Now they're translating the book. Now it's 1,000 years later. They don't even know Earth existed. And they have this weird book about the way things used to be. And now out of the billions of, now we're 10,000, 20,000 years in the future. And they find, these old ancient relics. And they're like, I wonder what if.
You don't even smoke pot, do you?
No, man, I don't smoke pot.
Imagine if you did. Imagine if you did. You'd have so many more of these theories. But that's a good one. That's a good theory.
But to me, that's the logical conclusion. That's why I like the story of like humans came from Venus. Not saying it's true.
Do you know
they're
that
fun stories.
there's a group of people from Africa that actually the Dogon people, is that what it is? Dogon people, and they talk about the very specific area of Mars where human beings came from, and they have a really weird understanding of cosmology. Like they know some things that they're like, what? And their origin story is that people were living on Mars and that they destroyed Mars and had to escape Mars and come to Earth.
There you go.
So it's sort of a very similar version of it. And now when you add that to what they know about Mars, that Mars used to be like a hospitable place to life.
Maybe water.
Yeah.
Well, think about it this way, too. Let's say that we had an orbital space station over the new planet we're terraforming. What kind of a government would exist? Let's say Earth is wiped out.
Right.
The only survivors on an orbital space station over Mars with a small colony on the base. It's going to be a military dictatorship. Not intentionally, not from this evil perspective, but from you're the general, you're second in command. We've always operated this way. It's a military mission.
Right.
The person who's in charge is in charge. And then eventually you build up the colony to a certain point where second in command or one of the favorite lieutenants says it's time to enact democracy. And the general says, fuck no. And then a civil war breaks out in the heavens, people on the ground watching the ships shoot at each other and blow each other up. And then all the technology gets wiped out.
You should really start smoking pot.
No. You know what I want? But there's a lot of ways to interpret various ancient spiritual religious texts in a science fiction-y kind of way. So I actually, talked to my friends about this, and we what if the Bible and the Old Testament were viewed from a science fiction perspective? Not to be disrespectful, I'm not trying to disrespect anyone's religion or anything like that, but what if we tried to apply a lens from a futuristic perspective of our understanding of technology to how they may have viewed what was going on back then? So you know what the cargo cults are?
Yes.
For those that don't, it's these natives on these islands saw planes, didn't know what they were, so they built effigies of the planes, I guess hoping they'd come back or whatever.
Right.
So when I saw that, I wondered, a lot of people ask that question, what if we did the same thing with aliens? And the other question is, what would we do if we destroyed our own planet like people say we are? And how would that result in a government? How would that result in stories?
It would be so funny if we destroy this planet, we go to Mars and repopulate Mars and fix it up, and then destroy that place and come back to Earth after we're done. Because look at what's going on right now during this pandemic. The skies are clearer than ever before. The Venice canals in Italy have dolphins in them now. You can see the ground.
Jellyfish.
You realize how disgusting we are and how we're gross. What we've done to Los Angeles is amazing. And in just a month and a half, the air is pristine, crystal clear. You can see forever. It's a different world. Now imagine if that's what happens. If we go to Mars, we fuck that place up, come back to Earth. Look, it's fixed. We're back.
I guess if we can sustain our technology.
Yeah. Did you find that Dogon tribe? Find that?
Yeah, but it actually said it's talking about Sirius.
Siri, right.
Not Mars.
But didn't they have something about Mars as well?
I typed literally that and Mars, and it just took me to Sirius stuff instead of Mars.
So
Sirius?
the
star.
The star, Sirius. But they understand. They have pull up a story on it if you can. It's a weird thing in terms of the cosmology, what they understand. And this is relatively primitive tribe that has this origin story.
Well, it's like the end of Battlestar.
My app isn't very good at all.
Oh,
the end of Battlestar Galactica. They find Earth.
The fucking new Battlestar Galactica is so good, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's one of the most underrated. Yeah, the more recent one. One of the most underrated science fiction series ever. It was so good.
Well, not to act like my ideas are original. The series ends with them discovering a habitable planet.
Yes.
With what did it?
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. With a species that's compatible with them.
Yes.
They find primitive humans.
Yes.
And so if that story, it's an interesting story.
Yes.
We would lose all knowledge of the previous planets and technology.
Well, imagine if we flew to another planet for the first time, we landed there, and it's like 1940s America. They're like, whoa.
Or
what
maybe
would we do if we could fuck them? They'd be so
weird.
impressed with you.
Well, what if we find a spaceship underground with ancient tech and we don't know what it is, and it turns out it's ours?
The Dogon tribe, the Nomo, and their fascinating cosmic knowledge. Deep in Northwest Africa, more precisely in Mali, we find one of the oldest, most fascinating ancient cultures to develop on Earth. So the ancient Dogon tribe is known for their religious traditions, ritual dances, their massive ritual masks, their wooden sculptures, and their architecture. However, they're also known for their incredible astronomical knowledge and their fascinating mythological accounts. The Dogon have a compelling ancient tradition. They mention myths and legends that go thousands of years into the past, predating possibly even their own history. Some authors like Robert Schoch, who's also the guy from Boston University, he's the geologist that talked about the Sphinx, argue that the Dogon were a people who originated in Africa, but who had been forced to leave ancient Egypt due to their religious persecutions. It is in his opinion that the Dogon may preserve ancient Egyptian traditions and myths that may even have been carried into the present age, claiming that the Dogon have a powerful cosmic connection. I can go on for... This will take too long to read.
Yeah.
Because I'm just going to just blah, blah,
So what
blah.
is that? Coincidence? Ancient knowledge?
Well, it's just they understand the cosmos, and you'd have to go into the story, but it's a weird story. It's a weird, like, oh, how do they know this? Like, what a weird origin story.
But you've seen Zeitgeist, the original.
Yes.
Where in the first segment he talks about the three kings of Orion's belt pointing to the star in the east, where the sun rises in the third day.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe their stories are just that. What could we do but stare at the sky and...
That's a good point. Yeah, when you stop and look, if you were traveling across the country as you were, did you get a chance to stop and look in the middle of nowhere at the sky?
Of course. It's
Fucking amazing.
Yeah, it's
Isn't
ridiculous.
Isn't it gross that we're robbed of that?
Yeah, and wasn't it? There was a story that I think in Los Angeles, the power went out, this blackout in the 90s, and the police got tons of calls from people who didn't know what they were seeing in the sky. It was the Milky Way galaxy.
Those are the same people that are injecting Lysol right now.
They aren't, though.
I know. Well, somebody might. There's probably a few.
Yeah, well, if you're going to